What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the DFS Pick 6 for NFL Week 15. Oh, baby, we are moving along. Joining me, as they are every week, let's start with Lord Reeves, Rich Hribar. Reeves, how we doing today, buddy?
Ooh, we're doing good. Mid-December. You said week 15. Ooh, baby, man. It's been a nice journey with you guys this year. I always like chatting with you guys on Wednesday nights.
Hey, it's a beautiful Wednesday night, man. I got basketball in the background, drinking a little bit of water, following some NBA line. Good. Life is also good for our man, John Daigle. And John, before we get into talking football, I have to say, happy birthday in 1 week to you, buddy.
The whole chat. So it's actually very friendly of them. The entire chat and the comment boxes from last week's show filled up with happy birthday. So
attaboy.
I do appreciate it. I was annoyed the whole next day as well with happy birthdays. So yeah, the people listen. The good people of the Pick 6 show listen. So thank you.
I just can't wait to see you at the Super Bowl and I can give you a hug and say happy birthday plus a month and a half. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And yeah, you're damn right. It's going to be a running gig from now on. Speaking of running gigs, we got some special stuff going on at the RotoGrinders. So if you're watching this on YouTube, first of all, click like, subscribe, then come over, check us out over at RotoGrinders.com. But before you do that, get in that comments section, say happy birthday plus 1 week, John Daigle. We're just going to keep rolling that, all right? And this is a little special treat for you guys. If this video gets 300 likes on the old YouTube page, we're going to make the Sunday Night Showdown video by Head Chopper and Big T free for all viewers. That's a great deal. That's normally premium only. They're going to make it free if we get 300 or more likes. Now, if we get it all the way up to 400 likes, and I don't want any excuses, get this done. They're going to make the Sunday Night Showdown and the Monday Night Showdown videos free for all the viewers. You don't need no premium if you're doing that. So click the like button. Click the subscribe button. Check us out over at RotoGrinders.com. And, yeah, Reeves, I mean, how are we doing, man? How are we feeling about Week 15?
Do we know if Kobe Fleener has a cameo?
We can certainly find out.
Amazing. Okay. I mean, hold on. You guys take over for the next hour or so of the show. I'm busy.
Can we? Because we've been trying to get Kobe Fleener to co-host this show for a while. So I mean, now that Cameo is blown up and Hugh Jackson is everywhere, can we get Kobe Fleener to do a spot for us?
It would appear that Kobe Fleener does not have a cameo.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, I feel like Kobe's wouldn't be all that expensive. That's like the old $10 cameo, right?
I mean, I'd pay $100 for Kobe.
I mean,
Fleener.
I would too. Like Hugh Jackson.
It's all
Listen, I've paid more in DFS for him.
That's a fair point. He probably would catch as many passes with the cameo as he would on the field. But yeah, we need to get some Kobe Fleener because unfortunately, obviously not in the league anymore. We don't get to play him in roster. He's been replaced by OJ Howard as a guy that keeps screwing us. So we're going to talk more about OJ Howard. I would imagine today. Look at Daigle. He's like a bobblehead over there. He's so excited about OJ Howard, SZ, and Daigle. Are you feeling okay today?
I'm feeling great. It's beyond OJ Howard, though. There are a lot of options we're going to discuss at the tight end position as well as we move along here. But Week 15 is an interesting one for DFS. There are a few games, the ones we highlight and the ones that we're about to talk about in particular, that have a terrific chance to go over despite being bet up already over a field goal throughout the week. A lot of games project for high scores. I like it a lot. There are a lot of good running back plays as well as a lot of cheap running back plays we can look to. No Powell traps just yet, but nonetheless, still a lot of good plays. So yeah, I like the slate quite a bit. And as we move along here, paying attention and just outworking the projections will be super important because now we're getting to the point of the season where there are so many injuries to filter through. It takes a notebook or takes special attention paying to.
Yeah, I will say that I, for one, am shocked that Bilal Powell Chalk Week didn't work out. I mean, I am just stunned over here. I'm also stunned that RotoGrinders and Yahoo, they're also doing another max entry free roll. I didn't realize this. We've been doing this throughout the year. NBA this Friday, another max entry free roll on Yahoo. So make sure you keep checking out RotoGrinders. Check out the forum. Check out Lineup HQ for Yahoo NBA. It's going to be free for the day. So check that out. Good stuff.
Does Big T give us his lineup if we check that one out? Because that's what we really need.
I mean,
that's the Big T content we need.
Yeah,
we need them giblets, baby. We need them giblets.
Yeah, if we're all going to share lineups, we just got to be part of the special group.
We just need Taysom Hill giblets. That's all we need.
Just some Taysom bleeping Hill giblets. Golly, you would think, as well as I know, Tony, I would be doing better in showdowns. I just get killed every week. Like I was looking at my at my stats for the year, and my worst ROI by a mile are NFL showdown slates. So basically, I must be doing the opposite of what Tony's saying to do because he's crushing it, and well, if we're being honest, I am not. But let's go ahead and jump into this slate. Houston at Tennessee is our first game, a 50-point total. Tennessee is 3-point favorites. And Reeves, 4 months ago when this season was getting ready to start, what would you have said if I would have said, so week 15, the highest total on the board is going to be a game at Tennessee and the Titans are going to be favored? You would have thought I was crazy, right?
I mean, if you would have told me I'd have Ryan Tannehill be like a lock and loaded top 5 quarterback at this point in the season, I mean, I don't know what I would have thought going in. But, it's been a really weird year. We say that every year, every season's a snowflake. There's a lot of weird things going on this season, especially with all these backup quarterbacks playing, the rebirth of Ryan Tannehill, the death of Odell Beckham. Saquon Barkley, will he come up later in the show? I don't know. He's kind of like just gone. It's been a weird year. This was a great year to go zero everything. Zero everything really hit this year.
I wish I would have gone zero best ball. That would have been really the greatest zero. But yeah, I mean, here we are. Derrick Henry's crushing it week in and week out. Ryan Tannehill is a top 5 quarterback. Daigle, it's bizarro world here right now, man.
I mean, pretty much the number 1 quarterback in nearly every metric you look at since he took over under center. And we discussed it last week. We questioned whether he was a terrific tournament play, if only because the volume was an issue. Leading up to last week, hadn't attempted over 23 pass attempts in 3 games straight. After last week, and he only attempted 27 passes last week. 4 games straight now, he hasn't eclipsed 27 pass attempts, and it doesn't matter because apparently he's MVP and the best quarterback in the league and the most efficient quarterback we've perhaps ever seen out of nowhere. In that span, despite having not attempted over 27 passes in the past month, he still averaged 253 yards and nearly 25 DraftKings points, 24.9 to be exact. And now we have a terrific up-tempo matchup against a Texans defense that just got dog-walked by Drew Lock and everyone over the middle of the field and on the perimeter against Vernon Hargreaves and Jonathan Joseph. So it's once again another terrific spot despite being a divisional matchup.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Titans offense, obviously we thought before the thought was, hey, everything's just going to run through Derrick Henry, and that hasn't been the case. So Reeves, I mean, do you have a lean here as far as the running game or the passing game, or are you just going to play all these guys on the Titans?
I think it's a great spot for the passing game, like Daigle alluded to. I mean, Luis talked about no one's run as pure as Ryan Tannehill over the stretch. I mean, 9.8 yards per pass attempt, 13.4 yards per completion. He's got a 7.4% touchdown rate. He's thrown a touchdown on 40% of his red zone passes. The league average is 23%. You know what team allows the highest rate of touchdown passes on red zone pass attempts?
I'm going to wait. Can I guess?
You can.
Is it the Houston Texans?
It is. It's the Houston Texans. I mean, they're 31st in pressure rate. They allow the most passing yards in the NFL per drive, per opponent's possession. And then we've got this weird thing on Tannehill where he's just completely mispriced on FanDuel. He's the QB 14 on the main slate in terms of pricing, QB 6 on DraftKings. So, I mean, that's kind of been the tail of the tape of the season. His DraftKings has been just a little bit way sharper. Not to throw any shade at my guys at FanDuel, but, QB 14 on Ryan Tannehill. I mean, that's like, how are you not going to play him? Like, how do you not play him in every single cash lineup? You just can't. You eat it. But with Derrick Henry, kind of being banged up, he's got his hamstring injury for a couple weeks now. He kind of went through some maintenance a couple weeks before last week. Then he re-aggravated during the game. He only had 6 carries in the second half of that game. They really leaned on Dion Lewis, played just 60% of snaps total in that game. So, I mean, that's something that could really crop up, and be an issue for Derrick Henry. Also, Derrick Henry, like, it doesn't make any damn sense that he keeps doing it. Like, because the way he is, like, to pay like $9K for a running back like Derrick Henry and for him to consistently hit value for a guy that doesn't catch any passes is pretty bonkers. Like,
it's bizarre.
Like just because it's different when we talk about these kind of archetype running back when they're 6K or they're 55 or something like that, and you play them because you think they'll hit and you can live with a floor game. But when you're paying, 8K, 9K for these guys that don't catch any passes and you're just counting on rushing volume and rushing touchdowns, and he just keeps popping 4 consecutive 100-yard games. He's got 5 games in a row with a touchdown. Then he's really weird too. Like every first half, like he has like 40 yards seemingly. He has just 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half all season. He has 13 rushing touchdowns this year. 11 of them have come in the second half. It's really crazy. But I do think with him being banged up and the matchup, it leans towards Ryan Tannehill. And he's had such a flat target distribution, but the one guy that has shown upside, obviously is the guy that everyone will point chase with in A.J. Brown. But, I'll turn it over to Daigle for him.
Yeah, I mean, Daigle, is it really point chasing if the guy is just really good?
It's been a slight role change in the past 2 weeks. He has run more routes than Corey Davis, and he is playing more snaps pretty much ever since Corey Davis initially came back from injury. The thing about A.J. Brown really, though, for me is just the matchup. Is it points chasing? Sure, if only because the volume. Like, how many receivers are truly going to hit on touchdowns and big explosive plays, despite being elite and amazing?
He's new Tyler Lockett now.
I mean, we talked about Ryan Tannehill's attempts. Now imagine, like, A.J. Brown spiking multiple two touchdown games and going over 100 yards on that few of attempts from Ryan Tannehill. So it is crazy. But the thing that keeps bringing me back to him, despite his increased price, is still the matchup, because the matchup is really that good. It's what you look up at and you're like, oh, like, we're eventually going to fade the Titans, right? And you see the Texans, it's like, oh, I guess we're not faded the Titans whatsoever. Having said that, though, Derrick Henry's price point, it's crazy he keeps going up, whereas Tannehill isn't being brought up as quickly, despite the fact that this is now a passing team and an offensive-minded team, not a defensive-minded team whatsoever. And we'll get to that in a second. But the thing with Derrick Henry, though, is that he did make that, I think it was a 10-yard touchdown run. And then the next drive he was in, he came off the field. It was 2 plays later, they threw a touchdown to Jonnu Smith, and then he didn't play the rest of that quarter because they were up 35-21. They didn't need him. So if this is a competitive game and a one-score game throughout, I think he does play more snaps nearly as an every down player. Having said that, there is, of course, a risk of re-aggravation. His salary is also incredibly high for a guy that just doesn't catch passes. So that makes him a very risky tournament-only play, but there is reason there.
And on the Houston side, I mean, I'm not touching any of these running backs. I think you're nuts if you do that. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I think this is a really sneaky Will Fuller spot because the Titans were getting beat deep earlier in the year. Reeves, what do you think about this Texans offense? Because if we like the Titans offense, we think points are going to be scored, especially via the air. We've got to assume that some passing touchdowns are going to be coming from the Houston side as well.
Yeah, I think that it's really weird because probably the unique way to stack this is to go Watson instead of Tannehill, which is really, really crazy to think about. We were in a similar spot. Do you remember last year when we had the Texans versus the Eagles and we were all on Nick Foles that week and we were on the show talking about, well, just pivot and just do the same game stack or run it back with Watson. Yeah. Like, he went bonkers. So it was like a game that was like 37-34 or something, and he ran all over the place and threw for a bunch of yards. It's kind of like, because everyone's been talking about Tannehill, and for good reason. The matchup is great. He's been playing out of this world. But, Deshaun Watson's pretty good as well, capable of some really high-scoring games. And we've seen last week, or any type of game where he's in any type of point-chasing mode is when it's the best version of Deshaun Watson. And we saw it last week. And he wasn't good last week, and they weren't good. But, he got 28 points. We saw him add 2 rushing touchdowns. He threw a season-high 50 pass attempts. But he's been a QB1 scorer 7 of his past 9 games. Tennessee has allowed 19 or more fantasy points. To passers over their past 7 games, allowed 4 300-yard games over that stretch. I do apologize to the guy that recommended Derek Carr last week. Mea culpa on my part. You got there. Oh, you won. But yeah, that's kind of where it is, man. He's probably the unique way to stack this because because the ancillary piece in this game, like, there's not a lot to really latch on to.
Yeah, not only did he get there, but he actually became like the optimal cash play at minimum price because that's how you got both Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins in. So, Crain, good on you for that forward-thinking choice.
Hey, they call me forward-thinking Crain.
Are you watching Jared Ledbetter in the background right now?
No, I'm watching the Celtics game.
Not Ledbetter. Who's the guy? Who was the Jared Allen? I'm sorry.
No, Jared Allen's such a stud.
Who is Jared Ledbetter? Is that like a 7-string middle linebacker or something?
Yes, Jared Ledbetter, the 7th-string linebacker that I'm sure Reeves knows exactly where he went to school and his college stats because that's how Mr. Reeves rolls. But yeah, this game's really simple. And like you said, if you want to, over on FanDuel, the price difference is a little bit more. But on DraftKings, like, Deshaun Watson's only $300 more than Ryan Tannehill. Just play Deshaun Watson. That's how I feel. But they're both great plays. It's a great game to stack up. Another game that I think we're going to be interested in stacking up is Tampa at Detroit. It's a 46.5-point total. Tampa Bay, 3.5-point favorites on the road. And obviously, Mike Evans, he's done for the year, which means that, are we looking at Chris Godwin? He might be shadowed by Darius Slade. Not that concerns me, but Daigle, you know who this means. Everybody's going to want to play Brashad Perriman. Everybody's going to want a little bit of Scotty Miller or Justin Watson, but you know what week it is. You know who's going to come bail us out. Right, Daigle?
I mean, to be fair, at least O.J. Howard's role change has happened in the past 2 weeks. Whereas previously we saw he just struggled. He got benched from time to time, whatever the case. But in the last 2 weeks alone, 85% of the snaps, only 9 catches on 11 targets, a measly 13% target share. But having said that, the opportunity that Evans leaves behind, a league high 135 air yards per game, over 7 targets per game. It's a loads of vacated opportunity. And whereas everyone else shuffles in and out of the lineup, and I know we'll speak on that whole receiver fiasco that's going on, but at the very least, O.J. Howard is a guy Jameis Winston's comfortable with, and we have seen him flourish in the past. So he is probably one of the more reliable options and will probably go overlooked just because we have Higbee and Ian Thomas lower than Higbee as 2 guys we're kind of focusing on right now.
Yeah, and to me, I know that Higbee had that giant game and Thomas was good last week. Reeves, doesn't it seem like Howard's ceiling is higher than all of them?
No. But I think it's fair. I mean, you've seen he's been productive the past weeks, 5 for 61, 4 for 73, productive games. If you tack a touchdown onto one of those types of games, I mean, you're looking real good. I mean, the Lions are 30th in points allowed per target to opposing tight ends. I mean, everything's pretty positive. The requisite ceiling, he just hasn't shown it. I mean, the problem with O.J. Howard is the types of targets he gets. He just doesn't get those downfield targets he got the first 2 years of his career in the Dirk Cutter offense. I mean, he's running, more outs and drags and stuff like that. He's not getting these vertical targets like he was when he was averaging 16 yards per catch his first years of his career. Hopefully, maybe that changes. Maybe they do a little bit more with him this week. They get creative without Mike Evans, because I don't know how you replace those air yards with just Scotty Miller and Justin Watson. I mean, those aren't guys that they're not Mike Evans. I mean, I think we know Brashad Perriman is a guy that he could get a lot of air yards. Is he going to convert them? It remains to be seen. He's kind of, it's really hard, I think, in DFS to play a lot of these guys. I mean, maybe sprinkle some ownership if you want in a game stack. I mean, but just focus on the obvious guy. That's Chris Godwin. Focus on the guy that is really good at football and can do a lot of his targets and also has the best matchup of all the guys. Because his slot routes didn't change last week when Evans left. He didn't kick outside. He still ran 66% of his routes in the slot. Prior to last week, he was running 62% of his routes in the slot. No change at all. The Detroit Lions are 28th in the league in points allowed to wide receivers from the slot. They don't really move Darius Slay in slot. He pretty much just shadows on the perimeter. He's only played 80 snaps all season inside the slot, so he moves in there a little bit. But we've seen guys like the Bears have done it twice, 2 games, that just moved Allen Robinson to the slot on him, and it has, they've gotten over that way. So I mean, he's not a lock to follow him, and Justin Coleman's been the worst of all the cornerbacks for the Detroit Lions so far. So I mean, just load up on Godwin, man. I think that the biggest disappointment in this game is that, one, there's no discount to even really try to sneak Kenny Golladay through anything, and that, 2, we're not getting $4,300 Ryan Griffin as our quarterback.
You didn't actually want that.
Oh, I wanted it. I wanted it bad.
I wanted it bad. I wanted all of Ryan Griffin, yeah.
Oh, boy. All right, you guys are sickos, I'll tell you that. On the Detroit side, you mentioned Kenny Golladay, Reeves. I mean, looking at the other, hey, wait, no. Daigle, you were the one excited about this game. Where are you going with the Detroit side?
Wait,
to me,
what?
That's the much tougher side.
No. I was nodding my head for O.J. Howard, for the hopes of O.J. Howard. I was not nodding my head for the excitement of this game, just because I do think Jameis Winston couldn't even grip a football on Wednesday. I've heard quarterbacks need to be able to do that. So it seems slightly worrisome for Sunday. He is going to start most likely. I would guess he definitely starts. His effectiveness, I'm still slightly worried about, even though he did throw for a career-high 456 yards with a fractured thumb just last week. Having said that, the fact we take Marvin Jones out of this offense completely, that leads us to make the next best stacking option old Dusty Amendola himself, who has seen 8 targets in both of David Blau's starts. He's played a season high 74% 2 weeks ago, and then last week against Minnesota, another season high 80%, just topping every single week because they have no choice but to play him on nearly every snap. So that's a guy I guess you could sneak in there, but again, what is the ceiling for Amendola? So I really don't even know what the stacking options are here.
I mean, you go Blau, Galladay, and Godwin. That's the game stack.
Please don't make me play Blau. Like, Blau was fun against Chicago. Like, that was really fun to just sit up with a belly full of dressing and look over and see him just chunking deep. But now, like, we know what Blau is through 4 starts. Like, he's only attempted seven deep passes the past 2 starts, a number 28th overall, and deep rate among all the quarterbacks in that span. So it's just – and that was against Minnesota, who, mind you, like, has struggled all year. Xavier Rhodes has been one of the worst corners in the league. So I just don't – I don't want any part of it, man.
Reeves, can you play Blau? You like bad quarterbacks.
I mean, he's worth exploring at least a little bit, but this Lions team, man, since Matthew Stafford has gone out, they've scored on just 21.1% of their drives. It's the lowest rate in the NFL. Just really hard to get excited. You take another piece off the board in Marvin Jones. We know none of their running backs are good. It's not going to be a game they can run the ball anyways. But, Blau, the first half of that Bears game, he threw for 136 yards. The first quarter of that game, he threw for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Since then, his past 7 quarters, he's thrown for 5.1 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Hasn't been very good. But, I mean, the Bucs are still the Bucs. They have played better, though. They've played a little better here down the stretch. They haven't been like a total sieve defensively. 6.3 yards per pass attempt over their past 4 games, the Bucs. Kind of just 4 passing touchdowns allowed over the past 3 games. So maybe they're turning the corner a little bit. It's hard. It would have been a spot, I think, where you could have target jammed Kenny Galladay in if he was a discount, but he's priced as like a top 7 guy on both sites. So, it's really tough.
Yeah, and plus, I don't know. I was about to say, well, they haven't really faced anybody with Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew / Nick Foles, and then ghost of Matt Ryan. But this week's David Blau, so hell, maybe they'll keep doing fine.
I was toying with the Bucs defense for a little bit there, just because that's how little faith I have in Blau. Apologies to his mother.
Yeah, she is a big fan of the show, so you should apologize.
Yeah.
It's rude, man. You knew that, and you're still just throwing shade. It's not cool. All right, Rams at the Cowboys, 49-point total. The Rams, 1-point favorites on the road. Reeves, I'm going to start with you. Are the Dallas Cowboys the biggest disaster in football for a team that thinks they should be good?
You look at their roster, it should be good, and they should have a really good offense, and it's just, they haven't played well. They haven't really done anything well, the past 3 weeks. It's disappointing. They are now, they're 0-6 against teams with a winning record, 1-5 against the spread in those games. Not great. Not what you like to see. You look at this is another kind of a weird matchup for Dak Prescott. He's faced 3 defenses, the top 10 of expected points in pass defense added the past 3 weeks. He was real bad against the Patriots, QB 24, but kind of give him a little pass in the rain. He's bounced back and had positive games the past 2 weeks against the Bills and the Bears, but he's been just an abject disaster, like outside of garbage time in both of those games. The past 2 weeks, he's thrown for 353 yards and 1 touchdown, 6.2 yards per pass attempt through 3 quarters in those games. In the fourth quarter of those games, he's thrown for 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8.2 yards per attempt, just in jailbreak scenarios. So he's really gotten fat, both weeks in the fourth quarter. He was terrible in both of those games through 3 quarters. And they were getting boat raced in both those games, especially by a team like the Bears. Now, the Rams are like a weird team because they perform well against like any team that can't rush the passer. If you can't rush the passer, then like Jared Goff has been awesome so far. He's had 7 games so far against teams that are in the top half of the league in pressure rate. And in those games, they averaged 6.4 yards per attempt, 4 passing touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, just 8.2 fantasy points per game. In the other 6, he's averaging 21.3 fantasy points per game, 8.8 yards per pass attempt. A lot of people want to talk about his road home splits, but he's been awesome on the road. He's had 3 awesome games. You know why? Because none of those teams that he's played can rush the passer. Arizona, if you want to count the London game not being in LA, and then he had another one mixed in there that is eluding me off the top of my head, but he roasted Atlanta. But I stock his pressure splits more than home road splits. I don't really care about home road splits anyways. But the Cowboys have played really poorly the past 3 weeks in terms of production or past month. But 3 of the quarterbacks that they gave up points to, Jeff Driscoll, Mitchell Trubisky, and Josh Allen, all those guys added double-digit rushing points for fantasy in those games. Jared Goff's not a guy that's capable of doing that, so it's kind of a really weird spot in this game. I think that just from an evaluation stance, Jared Goff was one of the more intriguing guys just on this whole weekend of games, because I think a lot of people are just saying, look at the Cowboys QB points they've allowed. Just stream Jared Goff. But there's a little more to it. I mean, like I said, about the pressure rate. I mean, Dallas, one thing they're still doing is getting pressure on their quarterback. They're 10th in the NFL in pressure rate. So it's a really weird game. And the Rams defense has been like really stellar, but they are another team too that just like, you look at who they play. I mean, Atlanta, Arizona, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. It was like Seattle is really the only team that they shut down, and they got just dog walked by the Ravens on Monday night. So this is a weird game in general. I don't have it's getting bet up on the over like crazy. So I mean, it's just a really intriguing game to me because I honestly think it's being overvalued right now.
Yeah, and you look at Jared Goff. I mean, whether you believe in the home run splits or not, whether or whether you're a guy who cares about whether he's being pressured or not, either way, things are sort of stacked against him here in Daigle. I don't really have a lot of interest in Goff this week. Do you?
So it's like Reeves said, it really comes down to pressure because as we know, Jared Goff doesn't work well outside of structure. He hasn't his entire career. So whenever anyone can penetrate the offensive line, that's when this entire offense goes awry. The Rams, however, are still first in explosive plays, 20-plus yard gains on the entire year. And what they've really been doing the past few weeks is, yes, Goff has been getting chunk gains, but it's really been Todd Gurley's show more than anything because Todd Gurley is just getting hammered now in the backfield. In the past 4 weeks alone, Todd Gurley handled 85% of their backfield touches, and then week 12, 90%. And that was that blowout against the Ravens as well that they lost. I think it was 45-6. Week 13, 67%, and then week 14 last week against the Seahawks, 84%. He's just handling every single touch right now. So it's really become a concentrated target tree if you do want to lean on Goff against this Cowboys defense. And it's really become Goff to Robert Woods to Tyler Higbee and Todd Gurley running the ball. And that's about it.
I just have trouble believing that Cooper Kupp isn't going to start getting involved again.
How crazy is it that the Rams that lead the league in explosive plays, they've only scored 3 touchdowns from outside the red zone, which is ahead of only the Dolphins. So they're getting explosive plays, but they're not like manifesting into touchdowns. It's crazy because we've got a new Chris Hogan, guys. Dude, Brandon Cooks is the new Chris Hogan.
He doesn't run as many routes as Chris Hogan did, does he?
So since he's come back, week 12, he's run 88 pass routes. He's been targeted 8 times on 88 pass routes. Like my guy is getting that Peloton in. He is working. He is working. Oh man, Brandon Cooks, what happened to him, man? He's like he was so consistent his whole career, and like he's just an afterthought right now.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe he doesn't know where he is. Could this be like a concussion issue and he just has no idea like that he's on the field, or do they Jared Goff maybe knows that and they don't want to mess with it? Is that possible?
Well, if he doesn't know where he is, then Cooper Kupp doesn't know where he is because Brandon Cook still played 27 snaps last week. Cooper Kupp played 20 snaps. Like that, I know Sean McVay, who always does things mysteriously. That's why I do wonder if there's an injury somewhere baked into this. But even Sean McVay came out and said, no, it was just like, that's the personnel. We're going to play Johnny Munt 50 of 70 snaps last week, and Tyler Higbee's going to play nearly every down, and we're just going to go with 12 personnel. Okay, that's fine. Why did Josh Reynolds and Brandon Cooks play more snaps than Cooper Kupp? Answer me that. That's all I want to know, because now we have a Cowboys defense that, since Jordan Lewis took over in the slot in week 6, has allowed the 3rd most yards from that position. And so it's a great spot. But the thing is, just like last week, no one really plays in the slot whenever they go to 12 personnel. Cooper Kupp comes off the field. So if there's nowhere to attack, it really just becomes the Woods and Higbee show once again.
That's so depressing.
Yeah,
I want to play some Cooper Kupp. I do. I don't think I can. You mentioned
some shots.
He still scored a touchdown, though. Like, that's the thing. The production can still be there. That's why he's a tournament play.
Well, Bobby Forrest has been the number one in his past 4 games. He's got 30% of the team targets his past 4 games played. 7 for 95, 6 for 97, 13 for 172, 7 for 98 in his first receiving touchdown last year. It's pretty interesting because the Cowboys, they've allowed just 2 receivers to have 50 yards in a game over their past 7 games, but they give up a ton of production collectively from the slot. Like over the past 4 games, collectively, they've allowed 8 for 150 and 1 from the slot, 5 for 63, 9 for 131 and 1, and then 7, 83 and 3 to wide receivers only from the slot. So, I mean, Robert Woods is in there for 40% of his routes. When Cooper Kupp, when he plays, it's where he runs 73% of his routes. That would be like the matchup area to target. The interesting thing about the Tyler Higbee thing is like, he's had two of the premier matchups that we would target for streaming and stuff, but it's not like he's been elevated by matchup. Like, he's been an actual focal point of the game plan. Like, they are running design plays for him. It's not like he's like an actual part of the offense, which is crazy. And then even the game before Gerald Everett left, or, the last time he was on the field, Higbee had already taken over. He was already, like Daigle said, they made an offensive switch. They were playing heavier personnel and kind of running, remember they used to just run like outside zone the whole time. That's all they did. They've kind of switched to more power run game, starting with that Bears game, and they've kind of stuck with that because it's worked. So Higbee was already playing a lot of snaps. If Everett's out again, I think he's a hard avoid because the matchup is also once again good. The Cowboys are just getting roasted in the middle of the field, and they're 26th in receptions, a lot of the tight ends, 20th in yardage. If we get him on the board with no Gerald Everett again, he's gonna be hard to get away from.
Oh, man, I don't want to play. It's not comfortable clicking Jared Goff to Tyler Higbee in a tournament. Or in a cash game, or any setting.
But Reeves is right. Like, I'm not even kidding. I know it is a little matchup based, but they are leaning on him, just like the Seahawks. Like, we avoided Will Dissly for so long, but it's like, hey, they're leaning on the lesser athletic guy for whatever reason. And honestly, like the past 2 weeks, Higbee has looked like Todd Heap. Like, he's looked amazing the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not like even when Dissly was popping, he'd just pop in the red zone, or they were using it dude, they're running actual just design plays to free Higbee up, and he's just stacking yardage. He's not just catching 8-yard passes.
And it's not just that the Cowboys are number 26 to tight end receptions allowed. Like, their linebackers have missed the third most tackles. Like, their linebacking core, they gave Jalen Smith this huge extension, nearly reset the market, and it hasn't mattered whatsoever because he constantly trying to make arm tackles weekly. So Higbee sets up well against this defense.
On the Dallas side, Amari Cooper, he's likely to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. I have no interest in Amari in this case. Michael Gallup, we know that Marcus Peters can be burned here and there. I don't hate Gallup, but of course Ezekiel Elliott. Reeves, what do we do with Zeke this week? Because don't love the matchup anytime. I just don't love running backs against the Rams. What do you think about Zeke or the passing game or this Dallas Cowboys offense overall?
Yeah, I touched on Dak a little bit. Just, he's had some uneven play and really saved it with some garbage time. It's a real tricky matchup to get a feel for because we know that the Rams can pressure their quarterback. We know their pressure stats are real, and we know that they've got some playmakers in the secondary. So we know their defense is good. Just it's kind of like when the Patriots, these teams that have run really hot based on schedule, where does it meet? Is it still like last week? If the Chiefs put up yards and some points on the Patriots, but if you still played Patrick Mahomes, you probably didn't escape your matchup last week. It was one of those things. So where does it meet? Where does the regression slide to? So is Dak a guy I think you can expect a ceiling performance from? I don't think it's a ceiling type performance game. So does it hurt everyone else? Maybe. But we really are only focused on a couple guys this offense anyways. Zeke's just he's a volume-based play. You just hope that it hits. He hasn't had 100 rushing yards in 5 straight games, the longest span he's gone, over his career. The Rams have allowed just 2 RB1 scoring games over the past 8 games. But again, check the schedule. It's not like they faced a bunch of great backs over that stretch either. And then, he started to find the end zone a little bit. So, he's a volume-based play. I don't know if he's going to make the cut when I get down to the line here. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of feel like this game is being overvalued, but then I see it get bet up, and then I'm just like, all right, so am I supposed to get on this or what? Because initially, like I said, when I just go under the hood of this game, no one has objectively draws that are really enticing to me. So it's really tricky. It's a tricky game for me. So I was hoping one of you guys are going to sell me on some stuff.
Well, Daigle, I'll give you a chance with the Cowboys, man. Who do you like on that side?
Who's
Likes nobody. That was that face. He's like, I'm supposed to like somebody, but I don't.
The Rams side that we are talking about is still my side. I love the Rams. And it's not only that this game has been bet up, this game has been bet in favor of the Rams. They opened as nearly field goal dogs, and now we're just a straight pick. And that's the side that I picked as well when it first opened, because I was like, that's crazy. The Rams, I understand they're on the road, but indoors, this team shouldn't be the dog in this matchup, especially given Dak's less than 60% completion rate over the last 3 games. They've played so poorly the past 3 weeks that we've already even forgot about that New England game completely when they couldn't move the ball whatsoever. We saw that game against the Bears where Dak, he just got all of his yards in the fourth quarter because this offense, once again, couldn't move the ball in the first half. So it's just, for me, the Cowboys are just a scary proposition, whether Cooper's dealing with an injury behind the scenes or not. But like you said, Jalen Ramsey's still getting shadowed. In that case, it would be Michael Gallup, because you're sure as hell not going to Jason Witten, who's somehow the number 9 tight end in fantasy scoring this year. Like, I'm not playing him. So it's just, I'm not really, to be honest, I'm not interested in the offense.
All right,
that says a lot more about the tight end 9 than it does in Jason Witten.
It's true.
Yeah,
That's
tight
very
end
true.
is in a brutal position. Like, more, if you don't have one of those top few guys, you've just been screwed.
But someone this offseason is going to cite that. Like, someone's going to be like, so-and-so was the tight end 8 this year. It's like, who cares, man? Like, it doesn't matter.
When you have everyone citing everything, then someone's going to be right. That's the way,
it's a
that's what
long
become.
off season, Reeves. You know how July works. We're gonna pull crap just out of thin air. No, this stat that doesn't mean anything. Well, let me spend 30 minutes on air talking about it. And anyways, that's what I do on my radio show. Before we jump into the quarterbacks, I want to remind you guys, for those of you just tuning in, if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and we got a special gift for you guys for clicking that like button. If this video, the DFS Pick 6 video, gets over 300 likes, they're going to make the Sunday Night Showdown video by Head Chopper and Big T. Normally that's premium. They're going to make that free for everybody. So click that like button, click that subscribe button, and help the people out, of course. Because I know some of you guys are probably like free members, like, oh, but I want that edge. No. You got to share the love over at the RotoGrinders. And if we get up over 400 likes, we're going to make the Sunday Night Showdown and the Monday Night Showdown videos. They are free as well if we get over 400 likes. So click like, click subscribe, comment happy birthday plus 1 week, Daigle, and be good times. All right, let's talk some quarterbacks. Daigle, starting with you, brother. Who you got?
I actually want to tag team this with Reeves because he's the one that tweeted about it, even though I do have it in my notes. So I'll just tee this up and say, Reeves, the bad quarterback of the week is.
I mean, it's Alicia, baby. Got to. He has to come up. I mean, it's inevitable. 5-2 on DK. I mean, every quarterback, the Dolphins allowed 15.6 fantasy points on DK to 11 different quarterbacks this season. He had 16.1 fantasy points in the rain on Monday night. He was awful in the second half of that game. Oh, baby. But he's got to get that record back to 500. We're meant to end in Eli purgatory.
This game is going to be so rigged, by the way. Like, if you want to get into conspiracy theories, there is a 0% chance Eli Manning ends his career with a losing record. 0% chance.
I almost picked this game to talk about. If we had 4 games, this would have been the one.
I'm pro Dolphins every slate, man. I love the Dolphins. I love Dolphins games. I watch more Dolphins games. Like, when we have like the rotation on all the screens, like, for some reason I'm always on the Dolphins game. I've been betting a lot of Dolphins overs too, and I bet it last week, and it was really great to have 10 field goals kicked in that game and then have it fall short by 3 points. But I've been really glued to Dolphins games. They're exciting. They play fun games. They're fun fantasy games.
Reeves is 100% the guy that drives past a car accident and just stares.
When you can watch Jason Sanders, you just got to do it.
I mean, dude, they're putting, like, Sunday night, people are going to watch like a Bills Steelers because they have good records. I want Giants Dolphins, man. I want that fun zone.
All right, so you like Eli because, I don't know, you like pain. I understand. I suppose that's it. Here, Reeves, who you pairing him with, though? You got all the options in the world.
All the guys, and you can run game stacks or days at this game. I mean, if you want to, obviously people will chase with Slayton for good reason. He's been your leading receiver the past 4 games. Doesn't matter who's played. If you want to just chase a touchdown because the Dolphins allowed the second most touchdowns to wide receivers. Sterling Shepard, despite all his missed games, leads the team in end zone targets. I mean, you can get creative. Maybe Evan Ingram plays. You don't know, man. Double E squared. He might be back on the field. You can run it back with Lord Laird, who actually, is. He's kind of an all right play, man. He's
kind of a good play this week. Yeah, I don't know how we got here, but
I was kind of last week. I wasn't on board because I thought it was just you were going to get receiving only, but he added some rushing yards in a terrible matchup for running backs to get rushing yardage. I think he probably flirts with 100 total yards in this game and 35. Dude, 35 running backs have 35 targets the past 3 games against the Giants. I mean.
I know. I just cannot believe we're talking about Patrick Laird getting over 100 yards from scrimmage.
The thing is, too, is he doesn't catch cheapies, man. He's averaging 9.2 yards per catch.
He is, and remember, like he was truly a receiving back in college as well. So that's his strength. If he gets 15 carries again and a season high 80% of the snaps last week, like that's why he's popping in projections right now.
I just didn't
he's
know
a workhorse under 5K. You're definitely well. I mean, it's reserved for another show on.
I thought we might get sued, man. I thought we might get charges.
As long as none of us pod with him, we're just fine. We're not.
Did you see the Miami Dolphins had like a full article on Patrick Laird and his relationship with the fantasy community? It's crazy. Like
we're living in a simulation.
I mean, that's the only answer. That's a given at this point.
Let's go to the other side though, because we do need to talk to Barkley because he's going to be over 35% owned. And like, this is a guy who has been bad despite going to be over 30% owned. Wayne Gallman last week was scratched, which was actually a big deal because then they had no one else take a single touch behind Barkley. He played 63 of 66 snaps in an overtime performance. And this due to game script, of course, but this Dolphins team is facing the most carries per game. They've allowed the most rushing yards per game. They've allowed top 5 in fantasy points per game to opposing backs. So it's a dream spot for Barkley. And basically, due to salary, you're going to have to suck it up. Or if you fade him, you just got to know. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with fading, especially in tournaments. But if you do fade him in cash games in particular, you got to know that you're going to be going against half the field who has him. So.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's been so bad. And he's over 7K over on DK, but I mean Reeves, and we've moved on to running backs now. Are we just eating the Saquon Chark?
It's tough. I've kind of tinkered with it a little bit because I don't know. I mean, I really want to play Chris Carson, but you look at Barkley and how bad he's played, but he's faced 3 other teams that are in the bottom 10 in yards from scrimmage allowed to running back so far this season. And in those games, he's had 14.5 DK points, 28.3, and 17. So he has kind of gotten there a little bit against those games. Those have been his better games since he's come back. The offensive line is bad. He showed a little life on Monday night. He at least looked the part, and he's playing. He's just not coming off the field. 97, 94, 95% of snaps the past 3 weeks. He's handled 67 to 72 backfield touches. I mean, there's a reason to swallow. I mean, the Dolphins haven't let us down, really. I mean, even Bilal Powell for not really like saying he had over 90 total yards against the Dolphins for a team that couldn't run the ball at all season either, too. So I mean, he's kind of gotten there. I mean, were there any other quarterbacks you guys wanted to play? I mean, you guys all want to play Chris Carson too, right?
Yeah, of course.
I am going to play Chris Carson.
Like, yeah, I mean,
they're early builds. Go ahead, Crain.
I was saying the Panthers can't stop the run, and all the Seahawks want to do is run, especially when they get up. Why would you not like Chris Carson? And I'm just saying when he fumbles 3 times and then gets replaced by CJ Prosise, and we're all angry about it, I just want to say we're all going to have our support group. We're here for you.
And it looks like we won't give that. Well, it's up in the air, but if we were going to have Josh Jacobs miss again, that was going to be the I mean, 4,700 for DeAndre Washington if he gets it. It sounded at first. Rappaport came out and said that they're expecting. And this is Wednesday night. Come Friday, Sunday, all these things could change. But Rappaport said he was gonna. It looked like he was gonna play this week. It was just a 1 week thing, and then Gruden kind of walked back on that a little bit later. But if we get DeAndre Washington, obviously everyone's going to play. And the Jaguars have quit. Like, they've just flat out quit.
Yep.
Like, they've quit at football. So, I mean, it's one of these things. And DeAndre Washington, like, everyone that owned Josh Jacobs last year or so far this season had to be so frustrated watching that game and just seeing DeAndre Washington being used in that capacity. And Josh Jacobs, every time that they lose, just comes out of the game.
I mean, if Josh Jacobs is healthy this week, I'm loading up on him too.
I totally agree. He's on my list of guys I wanted to talk about because, as Reeb said, this team has quit. This team has now gone 5 consecutive games of 3-score plus losses. We saw the Chargers, who aren't even good, just roll them up and spit them out. And now you have
2 running backs get there.
2 running backs get there, and then they also lost. The Jaguars just put their 4th starting linebacker on injured reserve in the past 3 weeks, including Miles Jacks. Quincy Williams, the one to be out for the season today. So they're on their 5th string linebacker. They're just talent deficient. They have zero hope. And now, of course, they get either Josh Jacobs or Washington. I was hoping for Washington, but Josh Jacobs' injury will also push ownership completely away from him. So I like him a lot as well. On FanDuel in particular, I think a good one's Dalvin Cook because he is $200 more than Barkley, and absolutely no one's going to look up, especially giving Barkley's ownership. And just the fact that game script really – it seemed like more of a game that Cook could have played more, but he scored or he came off the field, and then Alexander Mattison took over the rest of the way because they scored in between that. So it was really just they didn't need Cook beyond that point, and he was limited. But if this game is competitive, or perhaps they build another 2-score lead against the Chargers, who there's a reason why the Vikings are taking sharp money right now, because as we know, the Chargers just play the Jaguars. They're far beyond that despite having so much talent. I like Cook a lot.
Yeah, I think Dalvin makes a lot of sense in this spot. Moving on to wide receivers, Reeves, who do you got for us? Who are you looking at wide receiver?
And Phillip Lindsay. That's all I want to say. That's it.
I also just want to point out that Chris Carson's cheaper than Raheem Mostert on FanDuel. I don't know how
insanity.
How did life come to this? But that is also a fact. If you do play over there, especially a site that's geared towards more to Chris Carson's strengths, that's pretty bonkers. Wide receiver is weird week, man, because I think we touched upon like the chalky guys. DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Godwin, the popular pay up guys. But all these injury fallouts this week. I mean, we touched on the Bucs situation a little bit, but we've got no DJ Shark now, probably for the Jaguars. So we're going to have this, D.D. Westbrook, Chris Conley against Chris Conley and all his air yards against the team that just gives up buckets of 20-yard pass plays. They're 31st in the league, the Oakland Raiders. They've allowed 7 touchdown passes on passes 15 yards or further downfield. It's the most in the league. We talked about the Giants game a little bit, playing those receivers. On the other side, Devontae Parker, if he doesn't play, is it going to be a thing where you could play Isaiah Ford or Allen Hurns? I mean, I really feel like it's going to be one of these weeks where there's going to be some holes taken on some of these guys, the Amendolas, all these guys that we talked about, the jabronis. But, I mean, one of these jabronis is going to hit, and it's going to be who do you get exposure to? Who do you pick out? Which guys ends up hitting out of these cheapies? Because we all want to play these top dollar plays, and, you're going to have to take on one of these receivers. So, I mean, who's your flavor of choice out of these guys?
I like Chris Conley myself. Assuming DJ Shark is out, I am a Chris Conley fan. You mentioned the air yards, and I mean, whether they're there or not, if he moves outside, not only, or he's been outside, but not only if DJ Shark is out, is he going to get more opportunities? But Gardner Minshew loves to throw at DJ Shark. He's going to have to find a new binky to latch onto. And I feel like it might be Chris Conley on the outside because Minshew likes throwing to the outside. Daigle, are you on Conley or are you on somewhere else? Where are you going?
It was always in my mind Conley or Keelan Cole because we've seen the D.D. Westbrook experiment with Minshew, and it just is a shallower A dot. So in the great words of the great Adam Levitan, you just might as well wear 3 condoms if you're going to play D.D. Westbrook. We're not worried about that. We're going to play Chris Conley or Keelan Cole in my mind.
Keelan Cole. I haven't heard that name in a couple of years. That's good times right there. I haven't had a good Keelan Cole story.
There's 3K, so it might be a good Keelan Cole story week.
Hey, I got no problem with that.
I don't know how that story's going to end, but it might be a good week to tell the story.
He'll end with 3 targets with about 100 air yards, and you just hope that one of them gets put in the breadbasket. Guys, we got to get off here. Daigle, any last thoughts on the slate for you?
My receivers on my list were Julio Jones, if you want to hate yourself, and Terry McLaurin because the Eagles are trash.
Just stop with Julio, man. It's week 15. You talk about teams that are done. They're done. Hribar, any last thoughts on the slate for you?
No, man. Hopefully one of these guys pop like Emmanuel Sanders did last week.
Oh, man.
Robbie Anderson, too.
Yeah. Oh, God. I whiffed on Robbie. I've been screwed there so many times. I'm over Robbie, and now that I've been fading him, he's been crushing it. Manny Sanders was, good for him, but I loaded up on George Kittle in that game, and had he not turned into the Hulk at the end of the game, I really would have been.
Maybe we'll have another Derek Carr in our life for you then.
Yes, that's what we need. More Derek Carr, as we always do. We got to get off here though. We got the PFF show coming up next. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to Daigle. Thanks for Reeves. I'm Eric. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.